Hey folks, coming to you with a video update this week. Want to give you a little bit of an update on our COVID protocols here at the church, because there's been some action, some movement in the positive direction just in the last few days. We haven't talked in videos about COVID and how our church is operating for a number of weeks, if not even a couple months, and that's really because since we had to ratchet back up our protocols with the rise of the Delta variant back at the end of the summer, things have kind of been in the same spot. The language we've been using is that we had moderate protocols in place to keep us in place, that we didn't want to keep moving backwards. We wanted to be kind of paused on that returning process. We had been, you will remember, we'd been sort of growing more and more what we could do back in the spring and early summer. And then as Delta rose, we kind of pushed pause and kind of held steady where we were. As a lot of you, of course, I suspect probably know, the rates of infection here in Mobile have been going down, which is a really good sign. So our Coronavirus Commission met this week, and here's a few changes I just want to make sure you're aware of. The first is, though we're still inviting people to social distance, we are no longer going to have the pew cushions down and sort of forced distancing in the sanctuary. Every seat is available, so you can choose where you sit and with whom you sit. You may have some folks that you're, spending time with outside of church, and you may want to sit with them in church and still kind of be in a safe pod together. So we're still asking, of course, people to be responsible when it comes to that, but we're leaving it up to you to sort of determine where and how to sit. So that may not sound like a big deal, but just as we kind of slowly added restrictions in, we're also wanting to be intentional about slowly coming out. So it's not a big, hey, everything's back to normal. We look forward to that day when it comes, but we're trying to be wise along the way. I'll talk about that again in just a sec. Here's the reason I'm right here by our coffee machine is we're going to return on this Sunday morning to having coffee available for you before and after worship. We'll just use this one coffee station here in the window outside of our kitchen in the main room. So we have been saying no food or drink at all inside on the church grounds, but as things are improving, again, we'll have masks on, but obviously you'll be able to pull down and have coffee. Hopefully we can get back to food at some point in the near future as well. But we, again, trying to be intentional about sort of slowly coming out of this, not just a rapid burst. So if you're a coffee connoisseur, you might bring your own, but we will be allowing beverages inside, and just ask that you be wise about how you navigate that. The other piece, of course, that maybe is a question you're asking is, well, what about masks? Right? You talk about distancing, you talk about drinks or beverages, food and drink. What about masks? So right now, all along the way, we have said, and maybe it's different than other churches, and that's okay, but we've been saying we're taking guidance from the wisdom of external health professionals along the way. So Mobile County is still categorized by the Alabama Department of Public Health, not as high risk, but we're not yet at moderate either. We're at this kind of in-between status. You can check the dashboards there that the Alabama Department of Public Health puts out. We're hopeful that we'll move out of that and back into moderate and be able to make some further changes, but we're not there yet. I don't know, but my guess is because our decline in cases has been pretty quick. We may have to wait a little bit before we hit that. So based on both CDC recommendations and state recommendations of where the risk factor is for our county, we are still requiring masks be worn in the building, not outside though. So if you came to if you've been to the receptions that we've had after worship on Rally Day or PW Sunday, if you came to the outdoor Blessing of the Animal service this past Sunday, or if you're looking ahead next week to the Trunk or Treat, we are not requiring masks to be worn at outdoor activities. So keep that in mind. The other piece, and this may just be a little one, but I think it's important. Since the Delta variant had sort of been in that same spot for a while and getting worse and worse and worse, we realized that there weren't really many massive changes we were going to be making. So our Coronavirus Commission was meeting every 2 weeks. now, as things are getting better and we're looking ahead to hopefully this Sunday being the beginning of a sort of steady and intentional coming out, hopefully, the Coronavirus Commission is going to be meeting every week. So we're going to get back to every Monday morning, that group that was elected by the session and given the responsibility of making these kind of fine-tuned, detailed tweaks along the way, that group's going to get back to once a week meetings so that if and when there are changes, with external help data and guidance from outside groups, then we're able to interpret and adjust what our internal plans are. So all that to say, there's plenty of space for you in worship. We're still singing all of our hymns. We're still speaking together. We're still celebrating the sacrament of the Lord's Supper. You can have coffee. We do ask that you keep your mask on and be wise. But so many of the things that we weren't able to do, we are either back to doing, or we're back to doing them in a slightly adjusted but safe way. So I hope that if you're questioning whether it's time to come back or not, that maybe you'll feel some positive momentum from the numbers in our community around us, that maybe if you're ready to get back to going to things like football games or going to eat in restaurants, that you'll consider also that maybe it's time to come back to church as well. We've missed having folks in person. We have loved, of course, staying connected to folks through our online worship, but there's something different about being physical and in person. So if you're on the fence or need a little extra push to decide whether it's time to come back, this Sunday might be just the right time to try. It's Dedication Sunday. We're going to have 2 special musical events going on. Our children's choir will be singing in worship in the sanctuary for the first time since COVID. They've sung outside before at Vesper services, but this is another sort of symbolic returning back, as well as our instrumental ensemble. They'll be accompanying some of our hymns. So this will be a great celebration. Time and talent forms, pledge cards, we'll be collecting those. We'll have extra copies if you forgot yours or if you haven't had a chance to prayerfully consider. So anyway, just all that's going on. It's a big Sunday, an exciting time here in the life of our church, and I want to keep you updated on that. So I'll see you Sunday. Come ready for coffee and a good time to worship our living God. See ya.